Hi there, all the Neighbour family. I'm Kevin Neighbour, son of Bill and Annie, grandson of Jacob and Elizabeth, and great-grandson of Eugene and Caroline. My nephew Mark's the cameraman. He's right there. Oh, hang on, you can't see him. Let's get a shot of Mark. I'm now in the Upper Hunter Valley region where the early Neighbour family first settled, ran farms, learned various trades, or laboured in the coal mines. However, this is not where the story of the Neighbour family begins. To find out more about our family's origins, we need to go to a small German village known as Dorfprozelten. This is the historical centre for the Neighbour family.
Hallo und liebe Grüße an die Nebauer Familie in Australien aus Dorfprozelten.
Ludwig, Kurt, Inge, Gerhard,
Julia,
Eddie, Klaus, Herbert.
Beautiful!
Dorfprozelten is nestled beside the River Main in the German state of Bavaria, with a history that goes back 1,000 years to when Dorfprozelten first appeared in various written records. We can trace the roots of the Neighbour family here in Dorfprozelten back to the 1600s. Dorfprozelten today would be quite similar to when my great-grandfather Eugene Neighbour and his wife Caroline lived here in the mid-1800s. At that time, Dorfprozelten was located in what was known as Prussia and was an industrious village where trades like stonemasonry, shipping and vineyards were major economic activities. Early in Eugene's working life, he was a stonemason and was also known to be an accomplished vine dresser. And it was here that Eugene married Caroline Olmscheid in 1850 and together had a daughter named Maria Rosina, born in 1851. You may wonder, looking at this peaceful village, why this young family would leave here for the vagaries of an uncertain future in some faraway part of the world. From my research, I understand it was mostly to do with political and religious unrest. Also in the 1850s, it is known that there was a widespread famine because of the failure of food crops in the region. With an uncertain future in Dorfprozelten, Eugene and Caroline, like many from their town, decided to start a new life. In 1852, they packed up their belongings and travelled to the port city of Hamburg, while others from the town secured passage to diverse locations across North and South America. Eugene, Caroline and baby Maria Rosina found themselves on the Raya-Stieg, bound for Australia. After enduring a 6-month sea journey, the young Neighbour family arrived in Sydney on the 5th of August 1852. From there, they immediately transferred to a ship bound for the port of Morpeth on the Hunter River, where Eugene was interviewed by prospective employers. He was contracted to work at the nearby 4 Mile Creek coal mine for 3 years. After 4 Mile Creek, it is known they lived for a while in Woodville, where Eugene appeared in the census of 1857. Other records indicate they also lived at Lochinvar and Jerry's Plains, where they were joined by Eugene's mother, Elizabeth, and his sister, Rosalie. While living at Jerry's Plains, Eugene's mother passed away in 1871 and is buried there in the old Catholic cemetery. Pushing deeper into the Upper Hunter Valley, the neighbours finally settled on a farm known as Fairview, near the town of Gungor. Walking around this property, my mind wanders. I imagine Eugene ploughing these fields. Caroline and family may be tending a small vineyard, or riding in a horse-drawn sulky to the house they built on this property. There have been obvious renovations over the years, but this is where Eugene and Caroline raised their growing family. The journey here to Gungor certainly had its hardships. Along the way, they lost 2 children before they moved here in the early 1870s with their 5 surviving children. On this property, Eugene and Caroline ran a mixed farm with cattle, fruit and crops. Eugene continued his interest in winemaking and became a respected winemaker. This picture was taken in the 1880s of a group on their way to Mass with Father O'Reilly. The Mass was often held at Eugene's property, and I'm willing to bet that the man shown here could be Eugene himself. Eventually, Eugene and Caroline had 9 children, of which 6 survived infancy. Their second youngest child was my grandfather Jacob, who was born in Maitland in 1864. As the family grew, their children married, bought properties, and set down their own roots. The neighbour family became very respected as leaders of the community, as evidenced by Eugene's burial in 1896, which was the largest funeral scene in the district up to that time. Eugene and Caroline were both buried at Merriwall, though sadly we have lost track of their graves, which were possibly removed some years ago by council when they built the Merriwall swimming pool. Many of the families spread far and wide. Some stayed in the district, including my grandfather Jacob, who remained in Gungor, where he married Elizabeth Buckley. Together, while bringing up a family of 8 children, including my father, Arthur William, they ran a mixed farm with cattle, fruit and crops. In later years, Jacob also had a transport business between Muswellbrook and Merriwall. Jacob retired to Muswellbrook, where he died in 1940. Now we come to the family of Arthur William and Annie Neighbour. My father was Bill to friends, and Dad, Pop, Grandpa to all who were privileged to become part of their family. Dad was born in November of 1899 and was raised at Mountview, which was the family farm at Giants Creek, and he was educated at Gungor. At age 10 he was allowed to place 1 brick in the wall of this church, as it was being constructed with the help of many of the neighbour menfolk. It was a little off level and of course was called Bill's Brick. To this day, visitors to the church look for Bill's Brick. I wonder if any of you can find it. Bill continued through his teenage years working on the home farm and helping out on others, until finding work on the railway which was being constructed through Denman to Merriwall. Bill was a popular dance partner at local dances, and being a strapping big fellow, he was often called upon to deal with any troublemakers. It was at these functions he met Annie O'Brien, who lived on her family farm near Holladine. A romance blossomed, and after a period of courtship, Bill and Annie were married in Denman in 1926. As they moved into the Depression years of the 1930s, Bill obtained work with a bridge construction team, and they travelled and lived in tents and camps where the bridges were being built. How hard it must have been for our mother Annie through those early years. Their family started with the birth of Les at Wollumla on the south coast, followed by Laurie at Candelo, and Frank, Ronnie and Mari around the Bega district. It was in 1936, with 4 boys and a little baby Mari in tow, they moved their worldly goods back to the Hunter Valley. An old SX Tourer was their transport at the time. They rented a home on the banks of the Hunter River at Muswellbrook, and Dad found work as a carpenter at the local coal mine. The old SX died and lay in long grass down the backyard for many years. A push bike was Dad's transport to work for quite a long time. Keith was first born there, followed by myself, Des, Ted and Dan. Just before I was born, Mum and Dad lost their much-loved Mari, and how this must have been a terrible blow to them. In much later years, it brought tears to Mum when talking about her. We could not have had better loving parents who guided us all through the good and bad times of those early years. It was in 1952 we moved from that house near the river to the lovely home he built with loving hands and the help of brothers big and small. Young brother Ted did his best to blow it up before we even moved in. Ask him to tell you about it. Dad was a great cook and was always first up to cook the porridge. It was one of those mornings I heard my dad swear for the first and only time. Apparently the egg beater was not working to his satisfaction, and he threw it across the kitchen and hit the wall outside my bedroom at the end of the veranda, followed by the words, "Bloody stupid thing." For short periods in Dad's retirement, he spent it out bush enjoying himself as a shearer's cook. The shearing contractor said he now had a problem, as the shearers would not come each year unless Bill Neighbour was the cook. After a long, happy and productive marriage, my mum passed away in 1983 in Muswellbrook. My dad, who was still a strong, upright man after years of hard physical work, died a couple of years later in 1985. The seed that Eugene and Caroline planted became a massive family tree. It's now difficult to estimate how large that tree has become. However, we do know that Bill and Annie's small branch of that tree numbers around 260. So let's finish off by celebrating the many lives who have had the good fortune to find themselves as part of Bill and Annie's family, started so many years ago by Eugene and Caroline.
There's music hidden in the heartache, like seeds that sing a melody of trees soft and shy. The story is hidden past the daybreak. Colors spill, sing a melody of hope across the sky. And we gather light, hidden in strange places, scattered in the dark, and together cry for a world we're chasing, feeling for the lives of all these strangers, the dance of grace, humility, that shimmering light. And though our clarity is rationed, there's still a song that's humming in your heart. And we gather light, hidden in strange places, scattered in the dark, and together cry for a world we're chasing, feeling for the ark. Hidden in strange places, scattered in the dark, and together cry for a world we're chasing, feeling for the ark.